Welcome everyone again to SCWA's first in-person meeting. I am thrilled and excited to be able to welcome our speaker this morning, Craig Martelle, along with his fellow best-selling author Mike Anderle, runs the 20 Books to 50K group on Facebook. That group, this says 26,000, but I think I saw 50,000 somewhere. Craig,
We're almost 60,000 now.
Oh, 60,000. Well, after today, I'm sure that'll be 60,050. Holds conferences in Las Vegas and has helped authors from all over the world. Craig has written over 30, and I know that's more than that, over 30 books. This must be a very old one. You've written how many books? 100?
I'm over 125 now. Yeah, that must be really old.
125. How long have you been writing?
I've been writing full time for 6.5 years. Now, I have a number of collaborations in there, but I've personally written upwards of about 70 books. Okay, average length of 70,000 words.
So that's 70 books in 6 years. That really hurts. We so wanted to enjoy and like you. Okay, so you've written these books in a variety of genres, from space opera, military, sci-fi, space marine, colonization to genetic engineering. He's one of the top 1,000 authors on Amazon and has written close to, I'm not even going to tell you that word count because I know that's out of date. So we're excited to have one of independent publishing's most respected thought leaders and success stories to talk a little bit about, from his perspective, what it takes to become a successful indie author. So now I'm going to turn the camera and the mic over to Craig.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Maddie. Thank you for inviting me. And welcome to the Southern California Writers Association, SCWA. Thanks for having me. And I hope that our hour here today helps get you past a hurdle or a little forward in your career. And the thing is, on competition, yes, I have a lot of books under my name. I have a lot of Okay, I'm unmuted. All right. And have had some success. I've sold over 500,000 titles, copies so far. And it's me competing against me. This is you compete against you. It's not that we're competing against each other. And that's one of the main messages of 20 Books to 50K, is that we're all in this together. The pie is not limited. It is unlimited. When a reader finds a story that they like, a storyline or an author, then they'll stick with that storyline or that author, but they can read far more than we can write. Even somebody like me, who produces a fair number of books each year through both collaborations and through individual efforts, it's still okay. If you write 1 book a year or you write 20 books a year, the readers are still out there and they're still looking for that quality entertainment. So what is the attitude of a successful indie author? First and foremost, you embrace the 2 premises, and that's, you have to write a great story and you have to put it in the right reader's hands. That's it. There's really no more parts and pieces and puzzles to being a successful author. No matter what you're doing, has to be a great story and you have to put it in the right reader's hands. Now, there's half and half. How do I know it's a great story? Well, you write it and you start getting some feedback. But I don't know anybody who reads. My family, they don't read this genre. Well, that's when you publish it. You publish it, start getting it out there, and you don't know. But you can't ever be self-deprecating in that, oh, I know this book is a piece of trash, but you should probably read it. That doesn't sell anybody. Don't treat yourself like that. Treat yourself with some respect and accept that the book was the best book you could write. Also, understand that the story in your mind, it was compelling. It was compelling enough for you to spend 40, 80, 120 hours typing words to get that book in there. Now, those 100 hours of focused writing time, it may have taken you 5 years to actually get that, because you keep going back, you keep fixing, you keep fighting yourself when there's no reason to. You keep moving forward, you start writing the story, you tell the story, you end the story. Now you have your book, but it's trapped now. It's not trash. It was a great story in your mind. The trash part is as you're learning to then capture that with the words and then put that image into the reader's minds. Successful indie authors believe that they have done that to a certain degree. And the more practice you get, especially after you've written, say, I don't know, whatever a low bar is, 6 or 7 million words, you kind of get it. And you kind of you're able to translate that into for the readers. Now, I was luckier straight out of the chute because I had read thousands of books and I read fairly critically. Oh, I like this. I like this approach. I like this setup. And so when I started writing, I had all of that background knowledge of writing. And then I still had a lot to learn. However, the base stories were good, as a testament to 4 days ago, I had a book club featured deal and sold thousands and thousands of copies of this story and getting thousands of page reads and getting lots of positive reviews already from that one featured deal. And it was extremely lucrative. I think a 10-to-1 ROI is what I already have on the first after only 4 days. So this is the kind of thing that you can do when you tell a story. And this is the second and third book that I ever wrote, are the first 2 books in that 9-book series. And I look at it and I cringe at some of the language, but readers are forgiving. And this is where you have to forgive yourself and not be a perfectionist, because perfectionism is self-sabotage, because you don't determine perfect, the readers determine perfect. So if you put it in the right reader's hands, they're going to like the story if it's well told, and you don't have to keep going back and revising. So successful indie authors, any successful author believes that they wrote a good story. Once you have that belief, then it's a lot easier to market it, because now you're not fighting yourself. Like, oh, geez, I don't want to put it out there because then people might actually read it and tell me how bad I am. No, you've already accepted that I've written a great story, or I've written a good story, but in a great way. Now let's put it out there. It's not buy my book. It's like, hey, have you seen this story? Have you thought about this kind of werewolf that does this? Have you thought about the reflecting moon? It's still sunlight, so the vampire should be dead. See, that would be cool. The swallows come flying in, all good stuff. So same story, but different. Got your elements, and every story is different. If we were all told to read Frankenstein and then write it from our own perspective, every single book would be different, because it'd be written from our experiences, with our passion, with our levels of detail, with our elements that we think are the most important to that story. So you write that, you embrace that, you accept that you're not the arbiter of perfect, the readers are. So you got to get it in the reader's hands. And now this is where the success authors and their attitudes is that I'm going to do what I need to put this book into readers' hands. So you write that second book, and that gives you the opportunity to promote the first book. If you've written only one book, the best marketing advice I can tell you and give you is write the second book. Nothing sells first book like the second book. Nothing sells the second book like the third book. I saw a poll from Written Word Media. They own Bargain Booksy and Free Booksy and the Red Feather Romance, those paid newsletters, and I use them. I use Written Word Media to promote my titles whenever I put them on sale. And they did a poll, and they came up with the average 6-figure author had at least 40 books. He's like, oh my God, it took 5 years to write the first book. I don't have that much life left in me. I tell you what, that second book, it's a hell of a lot easier to write than the first book, and the third book, and the fourth book, and the fifth book. And by the time you get to book 125, you can figure down to the day of, hey, it's going to take me this many days to write this book, just because you are now a consummate professional and you understand how to partition the job, to break out the scenes, to then deliver a product. Even though it's your baby, it's still, when you type the end, it now becomes a product, and deliver that product to the market. So yes, I love my stories, I love my characters, and I love writing them. But like the conferences, 20 Books Vegas, 20 Books Madrid, 20 Books Holland, and the train ride around the UK, those take a lot of my time. And I consider writing to be my part-time gig now, but I still write. I still write every day, and I still publish. I think last year I published 25 books. I meant to publish 8. But hey, pandemic, that's what you get with the pandemic. You get a lot of extra time to write. Brandon Sanderson showed that can be extremely lucrative, writing books when you're not traveling. But so I did that. 2021 was my best year ever, and 2022 is already shaping up to be much better than 2021 because getting those titles out there and getting those titles out there. What does that mean, especially for the successful? It's you get them into the right hands and you build up like a snowball. It grows and grows. If you have 1 or 2 books or just 3 books, when you have that 3rd book, especially if it's a single series, that first book now becomes the clanging bell, the lighthouse that's drawing the readers towards you. Even though as a lighthouse, you don't want to go to the lighthouse. That would be rather catastrophic. So it's just showing them where the rocks are and showing them where this good story is. So you take that first and you pimp it out there. You put it on sale, even though it'll grate on your soul to look at your book that you spent. This first book, I spent 5 years writing that. I spent zillions of dollars and hours, and here you're going to put it on sale for 99 cents. Yes, you are. Because then people are going to get into that and say, yes, this is a good story. I like it. I want to read the next book and the next book. Successful authors, they sell those. They get that book out there in any way they can. And then there's the perma-free approach where, hey, I wrote this book. It took me 5 years, and I'm going to make it free for everybody for all time. Yes, you can do that too. But that's think about the grocery store. Of course you bought those grasshopper flavored Oreos because the sample person down at the end was giving them to you, and you're like, hey, let me try one. Now you feel guilty. Okay, I better get the package of Oreos. The sample, the free book, it does that now. What I've seen lately is that the free books have lost their mojo because there are so many of them out there. So I'm gonna shy away from those and move more towards 99 cents. That little bit of buy-in from somebody helps their commitment to then reading the series. So putting them where they can at least give it a try and never give a reader a reason to put your book down. So keep it moving forward. And my beta readers, I have an insider team that joined me after, they came on board after about 20 books that I had written. And they review all of my books in progress as well as after they're finished for readability as well as typos after the editor's been done with them, after the editor finished. And it's important to get at all of my stuff. I don't want a spot that's going to like drag down or too much description where the reader might stop reading. I don't ever want to give a reader a chance to stop reading. It's important to me that the readers, most of my readers are one sitting readers. They want to start the book, read it all the way through, and finish it in one sitting. So this is what I try to provide. So 60 to 80,000 words is my wheelhouse for my readership. And I keep trying to expand my readership within those parameters. I'm looking for those people who have that kind of time. And once again, it comes back to readers can read more books than we can write. But I want them to read my book when it comes out. So I try to entertain them and give them more of the same, but different. And successful authors will embrace this attitude. They will write a series to create a revenue stream that's consistent and marketable. And then you canvass readers and you find different ways to advertise, because they tell you when you ask them, hey, why did you pick up this series? Oh, I like this element. I like this element. Okay, great. And then you can work those into ads and you target more people who are just like those. And so if you wanted to expand and write a different series, now you can, because you've got a set revenue stream and a plateau from which to operate. And so you build these plateaus higher and higher, and that keeps your revenue stream growing as you're expanding, especially if you're picking different genres. One of the big mistakes I made was my first 4 books were in 3 different genres. You probably don't want to do that. Okay, I'll tell you specifically. You don't want to do that. You want to establish yourself on genre before then you start expanding and moving elsewhere. So post-apocalyptic, thrillers, space opera, military sci-fi. I have, I think, 23 different series. Some have sold a lot better than others. And the ones that have sold the best are ones that I started and went through and delivered book after book in that one series until such time as I moved on. But they had a good bank of books to read. And then after 6 books, hey, I made a 6-book set. After 9 books, made a 9-book set. And now I can sell those to a different readership or get those first readers. If we want to do a reread, they can read it in one pop. Successful authors will look for all different kinds of ways to expand their revenue stream without having to create new words. So I wrote, made it 3 books, now made a box set. Oh, by the way, sold it to audio, sold this set to Tantor. So there's a revenue stream. All this with just those 3 books, but I have now 3 different revenue streams. And paperbacks, okay, I made paperbacks out of the 3 different revenue stream without having to create new words. You look at all those opportunities because once again, I wrote the book, it's my baby, but as soon as you put it up for sale, it's a product and you have to switch hats. You have to physically switch hats from thinking about that creativity and that this is a piece of art, that there should only be one of them. Well, that's what NFTs are for, non-fungible tokens. Don't worry about those right now. You're trying to sell as many of these things as you can. It's a product, put it in the right reader's hands. Embrace who you are, embrace your brand, understand your genre. When I started writing science fiction, I'd read thousands of science fiction titles. So I knew what I expected as a science fiction reader. And in my science fiction, that's what I deliver. I have read far fewer thrillers. And so when I expanded into the thriller genre, I did not deliver on what a standard thriller reader was looking for. So I had to, even though I call them Ian Bragg thrillers and Rick Bannock thrillers, I market them as action adventure, because then there's not so much action as people expect from a thriller. Thriller, they expect every 4 to 11 pages, there's going to be a serious thrill. And then it ebbs and then it flows again. Mine aren't that way. So yes, that and romantic suspense I found. So my one series, I market in romantic suspense because it fits perfectly. I thought I was writing a thriller. I was not. However, once I figured it out, made a lot of inroads and picked up some good readers for those genres. So it helps immensely to know what genre you're writing in and study through reading. How about that? Your job is reading. Read more, and then come back in and write there and write what you expect, because you just read a bunch and said, hey, this I can do this, and make sure you get those ebbs and flows, that story flow along with the expectations. Like I said, more of the same, but unique. And this is why genres exist. Genre equals marketing. That was from traditional publishing. They did that just to make it easier for their marketing efforts. Well, everybody seems to like this one thing, so we're going to call that paranormal romance. And everybody's here, so new books, if they're paranormal romance, we can market them to this readership. So that's what TradPub did, and they made imprints that specifically had that readership. That's all genre is. It's not anything that's you go to college to study for, or you take out books and do spreadsheets. No, it's readers who will like this story. So yes, we all do crossovers. Like my post-apocalyptic, I had werewolves in there, right? Still, post-apoc was the main storyline. Sold to those readers. They were willing to accept this deviation from what their norm was, but still 90% of it was the post-apocalyptic landscape and challenges. So that's where I marketed the most, and that's where I hit the most. And that series, 10 books, sold 350 grand worth. So market to the greatest number of readers who will like that story. Because people get twisted up about, well, it's this, but it's this. Where's it? If a reader who's used to reading this, will they like it or not? And are they used to reading C.S. Lewis? Or are they used to reading Harry Potter? Well, if it's C.S. Lewis, well, you're looking for portal fantasy, then that's what that readership is called. If it's Harry Potter, urban fantasy, that's what that readership is called. And the subgenre of academy urban fantasy doesn't matter. It's where those readers are. So that's just a category to help you find them. So take advantage of that. All right. Geez, 25 minutes. There's my 50-minute presentation in 25 minutes. Do we have any questions? Please have questions.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's how good you are, Craig. Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you were saying, and there was a lot of information and a lot of insight into that, but I'd like to go back to a couple of them. How do you write that many books in that period of time? Do you schedule? Do you have a goal? Do you just write what you want to write? How does that work? I mean, that 40 books is crazy in a year. It's mind blowing.
Well, now those are collaboration titles. Generally, I write from 10 to 14 books a year.
Oh, well, okay.
Even if you personally, that I write 100% of the words. So, but that's I have a word count goal that I'm shooting for every day. And it used to be 2,700 words. And why 2,700? Because 2,700 times 365 equals over 1 million words. And the first 4 years, I wrote and published over 1 million words a year. Since then, because this is my part-time job now, 2,000 words a month, 2,000 words a day is perfectly fine. And I don't always get that. Like yesterday, I only had 1,500, I think. And that's okay. And today I've already got, I think I have 1,000 already on the page today. It's what I do to things going on. It's my world. I write escape fiction, and I myself get to escape into this fiction, these fictional worlds. Now, I'm also extremely results oriented. So the book I'm working on right now is book 5 of a 6-book series. And the book that I just sent to the proofreading team 2 days ago was book 15 in a series, because I like seeing those. And each book in a new series is a boost to the whole series. So as I publish book 15, I will sell complete sets. I'll sell 20 or 30 complete sets. So books 1 through 14, along with 15. And we run a lot of promotions with each new release in that series. So the business side of me, and I love the business, so I'm that kind of freaky person. I like the art because that's the escape, and I like telling stories. But then the business person, hey, I want to see book 15 published, because then look at all these other great things that happen. So it's results oriented, but it's also goal and task driven. My task, write 2,000 words a day, and I cut myself slack. If I don't get 2,000, I'm not really torn up about it. But I do have a hard deadline that I want to finish this book by May 15th. Now, if I knuckled down and really ground through it, I could probably get it done well before that. But I only want to get it done before I go to Ireland, UK, and Spain for that author meet and greet tour and 20 Books Madrid and those things. So I just wanted to not have that hang over my head while I'm traveling. So that's really the hard deadline on that.
So when you're deciding what you want to write, do you have it scheduled, or do you say, I really love this world, I want to write in this, or I haven't written in this series in a while, I need to get a new book out in that? Because you have so many ongoing series, how do you decide what you're going to write next?
Whatever's most lucrative, and mixing it up. What I've discovered is after a certain number of books, you can do 2 books a year in that series, and you'll get this big boost, because during that time I run a lot of promotions in building my newsletter list. So all of those new names, when I run a promotion on books 1 through 14, I'll have a bunch of people who aren't into that series yet. So then they'll dive in and pick up the books and read them in Kindle Unlimited. So boost the page reads. So twice a year is good, 3-4 times a year. Beyond that, no, because then you overwhelm them. So I'm looking at the two most lucrative series right now, bouncing back and forth between them for the next 4 books. But I do make a schedule for the year based on the ebb and flow of the business. Like sales are a little lower for me in the summer. They accelerate through the fall and into the spring. And I always do huge promos in November, December, because traditionally that's the highest KU Kindle Unlimited page payouts. Because once again, I love the business side of this. And if I'm going to maximize page reads, let me do it when the payout is predictably the highest. So that's how I organize my year.
And how long did it take you? I mean, you obviously have a tremendous breadth of experience and knowledge of things like mysteries and alchemy, like Kindle and Kindle Unlimited and Amazon, and how you approach this. How long did it take you to kind of get to a point where you said, okay, I can do this all the time. This is going to be lucrative. This is financially rewarding for me.
I actually didn't see the financial rewarding part until after I had been writing full time for 15 months. I saw some success, and I saw breaths of inspiration and, hey, this looks pretty good, wisps, but really didn't see that full success and actually get into the black on my expenses until the 15-month point. But I retired from the Marine Corps at 39 years old. I went to law school, then got a law degree, then went into business consulting. And after 7 years of business consulting and being up in the Arctic Circle, working with the oil companies, I decided that was enough of that. And I retired from that. And then I decided, hey, it's time to write that book I always wanted to write. And I liked it. So I kept doing it because I was too young to retire fully. I was 52 years old and needed something to do. So I do it because I like it. I like writing. I like telling stories. But then I really love the business part of it too, which is what, as a business consultant for Fortune 500 companies for 7 years and helped them. I think my total was about $40 million saved or improved during that time, where improved their sales, improved their businesses. So I love that part of it. And I get to do both by writing and then selling.
Wow. And then we have a question here that says, how many people are in your team of beta readers, or do you have beta readers? And is there a recommended amount? Do you have an editorial staff? How does that work?
When I was writing more than I am now, I had an editor on retainer. I paid her a set amount each month for 100,000 words. I paid her, here's your pay for 100,000 words. I pay her at the beginning of the month. And then I would deliver a book or more a month. If we went over 100,000, I paid her the extra. If we went under 100,000, she kept it. And so I had her on retainer. Now the agreement was, as soon as I dropped a book, and usually I dropped a book within 2 or 3 days of when I told her I would, and I gave her the schedule for the whole year. So I delivered 12 books exactly on time for 12 months. And the deal was, as soon as I dropped the book, she would drop everything else, work on my book and get it back to me. I had my insider team is 4 people. These are trusted folks. They're beta readers. So I give them a book at 5,000 words. And again, at about the halfway point, they check to make sure, yes, this is compelling. I like it. It's flowing good. At the halfway point, yes, I like these. Here's this. This seems like it's hanging. And I make those fixes then, and I draw it right to the end. Then I send it to the editor, who I now have not on retainer, but kind of. She gets to my stuff right away, because I absolutely cannot accept having a book with an editor for anything longer than 2 weeks. That is unconscionable to me. So I buy the time ahead of time and get that book back, get it to my beta readers. And my latest book, that 15th book in the series, that is with 15 proofreaders right now, because we want to kill all remaining typos. And my second and my third book, business, it really chaps my ass. Sorry, the language, chaps my ass when people say, well, indie authors are bad. And I will tell you that I have fewer typos in my books than you'll find in traditionally published titles, because I am fanatical about fixing that, about getting it right. My books with the most typos are my traditionally published books. I have 4 books with an imprint of Simon and Schuster, and people send me, oh, hey, there's a typo in here. I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. I actually don't send that to the publisher because, hey, let them stay in there. My trad pub titles aren't as clean as my other titles. So anyway, that's a little personal foible. But 4 people as an insider team and 15 proofreaders. And I don't do ARCs. I do not do advanced reader copies. So I have nobody jonesing for free copies to then do whatever to it. I just don't do ARCs. All of my reviews are organic. I should go over 2,000 reviews on one book. One of my latest series within the next couple of days. It's at like 1980. And the other 2 books in the series, one's over 1,000 already, and the second one should be over 1,000 today or tomorrow. Wow. So wow. Plenty of organic reviews.
So what would you say, Craig, to somebody who has a book and they have been working on it for a while, so they've gone through revision? What would you say to them as to when to pull the trigger? How do they know it's time to pull the trigger and get that book out there? What advice?
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And once you publish a book, then you can start knowing. You can start learning. Because the first book I published, self-edited, with a cover that I did in PowerPoint because I'm that old, and it had issues. It has some editing issues. It has some crutch word issues. I used a couple, I think 200 times in a 100,000 word book. So, okay, a little overdone. And I actually just did a search in the book that I finished last week, 60,000 words, couple. It was in 5 total times. So yes, learned, and not using that crutch word, the indeterminate of just, hey, here, let me just throw out this thing, and there's a couple of them, whatever, or a few of them. No, either a specific number or not. Don't just throw something out there and tell the reader that it's unimportant by telling them it's unimportant. You don't even need to mention if it's that unimportant. So these are things that I learned. And actually, I'm lost now. I don't even remember what the question was.
We were talking about what you need to do. Well, we're following you.
When to publish, good. Yeah. So I published that book and I learned a lot. Okay, yeah, cover needs to be right. The blurb needs to be right. My blurb was a synopsis, of course, because that's what everybody does in their first one. It's like their college taught you poorly that because they're teaching you to write a synopsis. What is this about? And that's not what a blurb is. Ad copy. And one thing I found out is that the blurb has to have a little bit in relation to what the book's really about. You just have to set the hook, make it compelling enough to have the reader read the first few pages and then get hooked. So it doesn't have to relate a whole lot to what happens in the book. And definitely I never tell them what happened or what the inciting incident. You can do that, but not then any kind of resolutions. And the question, how can it go wrong? Well, of course it can go wrong. That's what the book's about. So getting that blurb right. But these are all learned traits you don't know until you get it out there. And people are like, oh, I'm not going to put it out there and look like an idiot. You're an idiot. Everybody's an idiot when it comes to publishing your first book. Just accept that. Don't be a self-sabotaging perfectionist. How do you know what perfect is until you get your book out there? And now it's taken me a lot of books, and now I got a pretty good idea of, hey, here's a good cover, here's the right title. Title's important too. I learned that. My first book was called "It's Not Enough to Just Exist." Great title for a post-apocalyptic survivalist book, except it's not. When I ran an ad for that, 99% of the people responding to that were girls 13 to 17. Not post-apocalyptic readers. So you got to get the title right and the title that's the book I sold to a trad pub. Title is End Times Alaska. Like, well, it's not the end times because they survive. And it wasn't just enough to survive, enough to exist. It was they needed to survive and thrive. Yes, End Times Alaska, because that sells the book. and the blurb sells the book. It's not that you have to tell them what the book's about. Okay, cool. So I learned that. Covers are all different now. The title is different. Everything is different about those books, except the story. Story's the same. That's where you learn ad copy, marketing. And it wasn't me buy my book. Look at me. I'm Craig Martelle. I wrote End Times Alaska. No, I wrote It's Not Enough to Just Exist. And Simon and Schuster said, we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it End Times Alaska because people like Alaska books. Alaska. Yay. So anyway.
All right. So
these are the things you learn. And I didn't know any of it. So how are you going to learn? Well, I need to just accept I'm going to look like an idiot. But you know what? Out of 100 people who say they're going to write a book, you actually did. So if you publish it, you're not going to look like an idiot, because if the things aren't aligned, you aren't going to sell any copies. So you might get a few copies here or there. And this is what I found out. I sold 53 copies of this book until Simon and Schuster got it. Oh, hang on just a second. There you go. There you go, Buffy's. My dog needed to get out. So Simon and Schuster, now they've sold tens of thousands of copies of that book. Same story, but marketed well, targeted, marketed. So these are the things I learned off that first book. When you align those things, so that's why it was critical. Okay, hey, books 2 and 3, now this is a series. I need to make them consistent covers. And I spent a fortune getting the right and best covers for them. I developed a genre that was right for it, because the first reviews are like, oh, this reads like a YA. Okay. So once I put it in YA category, guess what? Sold gangbuster.
Yeah. So you talked about all the things that independent authors, especially newer independent authors, should do. How did you go about, or how would you suggest people go about finding those resources, like cover art, editors, proofreaders? I heard somewhere that it's the people who cater to writers that make more money than writers. So do you have suggestions on how to do that, or where people should start?
I tell you what, it doesn't get any better than 20 books to 50K. We built this resource for that specific purpose, not to vet cover artists, but to help people find those resources. Indie Cover Project is one. There's another cover designer group that I'm a member of. They have 200 cover designers in that group, and they will, because you can say, hey, I want an urban fantasy cover with an academy kind of backdrop. My budget's $250, and you'll get a bunch of people saying, hey, I can do that. So it's kind of like Fiverr, but at a higher level and a higher quality of artist. You may get lucky on Fiverr, but this cover group is much, much better. 20 books of 50K, teaching people what they don't even know to ask. And then the conferences. I cannot stress that enough, especially if you're in California. Oh my God. You have got to road trip up to Vegas for the show. And my whole goal with that show was making it so it costs less than $1,000 for somebody to pay the conference fee, pay for the room, the travel, and a little bit of food while you're there, and attend the conference. Because then you're going to meet people who are in the same boat as you. You're going to meet the cover designers. We'll probably have 30 or 40 on vendor day. You're going to meet the other vendors who can tell you what you need to know and who you need to ask. Editors will be there. We'll have an editing panel so you can ask better questions. So, and for all of that stuff, you can always go back to our 2021 show and watch the videos for free on YouTube. And we have all of that. Look for the editing panel, look for things like that to then ask smarter questions. We have my insider team did a panel on beta readers and proofreaders, how to work better with them. And none of those people are authors. They read. So you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions of the right people.
Okay, that's great. And hopefully, as I mentioned, we've had several people in our organization attend your conference, which is another reason why we're so excited that you're here. But tell us more about the philosophy of 20 books to 50K. And I've just now gotten it right, because I kept saying 50 books to 20K and everything, but now I've got it right. What is the
That's
philosophy?
way too much like work. Write 50 books, make 20K. Oh my God. um, that's a retirement plan. When Michael Anderle came up with that, he was looking at his first 3 books published, and he was making like $750 each of those 3 books. And he was sitting in Cabo San Lucas, and he said, "Hey, if I had 50 grand a year in income, I could live comfortably here in Cabo San Lucas, because you need about 35K, and that gives me a little bit of a cushion. 750 each book. How many books do I need? Okay, 20 books, making 750 each a day. Live comfortably in Cabo San Lucas, a retirement plan." And also, it started because when he first started realizing some success, that other group, K boards, they were less than congenial. And my first feedback on K boards was, don't leave your day job. So I'm sure some folks are happy that I did leave my day job and ran 20 books instead, and ran the conferences, because everybody has to learn somewhere. And that first book, if you're judged solely by that first book, and this is what we despise about some of the input from our so-called peers, was they just lambasted people on their first book. Okay, so my cover wasn't right, but my and my blurb was wrong, and my title was wrong. So it looks like I'm all wrong. But you know what I wasn't wrong on? The story. The story was fine. So this is, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, buyers will, but other authors should not. Give the people a chance to succeed on their own merit. So when the story's good, you just got to put a good package on it. And this is what we're trying to teach people in 20 books of 50K, is that the business side of it is that we're assuming that you're going to write a good story because it was compelling enough in your mind that you took the time to put it down on paper. So if it's that compelling that you would invest that kind of your life, that amount of your life, into getting it down, well, then we're going to assume it's a good story. Now, how do we get it out to people? And then once the readers start getting into it, maybe it wasn't as good as you thought it would be, or as good as it was in your mind. Well, how do you fix that? And that's a continuous improvement mentality. Once again, coming back to successful indie authors. Hey, some books aren't as good as others. What made it not good, and how can I make the next one better? And this is what you need to approach, especially as a professional, how to approach your business. Yes, you need a great art. You need to write compelling stories. You need to be inspired at times and write some prose that's never been written before. But you still need that blue collar approach of getting that sweaty bit in between, where you're setting up a scene where it's not sexy, it's not inspired, but it still needs to be done. So you get those words, and then you market them. So once again, I lost. What was the question?
You answered it. You know, for somebody who says that,
Okay,
you answered these questions very well. All right, so I have some questions from our audience. Let's see. What were obstacles of writing with someone else? You said you do collaborations. What are some of the obstacles in doing collaborations or writing collaboratively?
Okay. Now, I've written a lot of collaborations. If you look at co-authors, I probably have a dozen different co-authors, and I have fired over 50 collaborators. Now, when a collaborator takes more energy from you than you get, you need to part ways. And usually I know within the first 3 chapters. One, I tried collaborating with an individual and it wasn't working. They absolutely weren't getting what I wanted on that first chapter, so I fired them. And I tried another one, fired them. And then I'm like, okay, nobody's getting it, so let me write the first chapter, and then the collaborator can say, I see, and then pick up from there. So I wrote the first chapter, and I sent it to another collaborator who edited my first chapter, changing everything in there, and then wrote the second chapter. So I said, oh, you're missing the point here. So no, do not change what I wrote. I mean, editing is one thing, but changing the content, the substantive nature. So yeah, fired him too. And then finally found somebody who wrote a second chapter that dovetailed nicely with the first chapter. It's like, there you go. So yes, and one wrote a whole book and gave it to him. Said, here, just take this. I don't want to have anything to do with this ever again. It was so absolutely painful getting the words. And then there are people who are so refreshing to work with. Ira Heineken, I just want to mention him. Glory, our book that we wrote, military sci-fi. He writes with such great passion and intensity that when I get his chapters, man, I want to dig into them and read them and then tweak up the military parts because military science fiction, and just tweak those up and maybe tweak the conversations between the military members a little bit because Ira didn't serve, and he gets close, add that little sense of realism, and then we move forward. And it's such a pleasure to read those. So those are the collaborators that you want to work with. And finding one, you've got to find someone who's close to you in their style. So I had tried some collaborators who hadn't really written anything before, and no freaking way. You don't want to do that. You want to find somebody who has something published, and even if it's not published, something written, and written to a standard that you accept. So just like, I'm not going to carry anybody. And I keep saying that as part of 20 books to 50K. You got to carry your own weight. So you got to write. You got to be able to write and convey those ideas in a way that's compelling to keep the reader reading. So that's what I look for in collaborators.
Okay, and do you send them an outline, or do you just kind of see what they come up with, or you give them like a general idea, or how much direction do you give a collaborator?
All of that.
All of that. Okay.
It just really depends on the series, because a collaborator might pitch a series that is compelling and makes sense, and they want to outline it. Great. If I have to outline it, well then you're not going to get as high a percentage if I'm outlining it. Right. Yeah. And some people, it's like, I have this series, I want to write this. Can you help me with these parts of it? It's like, now that is a cool collaboration because it's not as time consuming, and I get to do what's in my wheelhouse, like military action, and they're doing some of the character development, some of the scene setup, and some cool space technology and things like that. So those are fun ones that I enjoy.
Okay. All right, great. So what does it cost for promotion and marketing expenses for a book? If you're saying talking to somebody who might not have endeavored to publish at this point or is thinking about it, what can they expect to spend?
When I run a promotion on the first book in a series, and if I have 3 books, 6 books, whatever, however many books in a series, and I'm going to release the 3rd book, and I want to run a promotion on that first book, I generally dial it in between $350 to $500 for that promotion on that first book.
Okay. Okay. Oh, hi, puppy.
You're Stanley.
See, we're getting inspired. Okay, so, and do you only use Amazon?
I've got books wide, but generally Amazon is my main source of revenue.
And how do you get the right story in front of the right audience?
By reading. I think the most important thing you can do is read. Like my story about the thrillers that weren't really thrillers. I didn't read them. I read a bunch of thrillers, but I didn't read them as critically as I read sci-fi. Now sci-fi have that dialed in. I know where those readers are because that's me. And my readership on my science fiction is generally older people. So 40 to 60. However, it's like 2/3, 65, 70% women. So great. Appreciate you coming on board and reading my stuff. So I temper it that way. I don't make it all ooh-rah with a lot of F-bombs to then chase away that audience that has followed me through a number of series.
Okay. Okay. Are all your books available in both hardback and digital?
Most paperbacks. I only have one hardback done.
Paperback, yeah.
But paper, yes, just because I like that. I've got them on my shelf. So I put them.
Wow.
There's yeah, and that's 2 layers deep. But I like having a physical copy of all of my stuff. So I always, whenever I buy a cover, I buy the full package. The ebook, the paperback, and a lot of times the audio as well, even if I don't have immediate plans to have an audiobook done.
Okay. What is the absolute most valuable idea you feel writers should know?
there's a Venn diagram, which is two circles, right? One is what you like to read. One is what you like what you like to write. And another one is what readers want to read. And you find that overlap and write stuff that readers are going to like. There's a lot of people who say, well, I'm going to write a passion project. That's fine. Just temper your expectations regarding sales. Don't expect to sell a whole lot of your Now, your passion project might be right in with what people want to read or really resonate, but don't count on that.
Okay.
So write what readers want to read within what you like to write. And I guarantee you're going to find something in there that resonates.
Okay. What tips do you have that combat self-doubt and procrastination? Because writers never have any self-doubt, or they never procrastinate.
Being results helps a lot. Some other people completely have mine. You have to know yourself, like I could do. And even if it's not very good, like when I published my first book, that cover, that blurb, oh my God, but that was the best I could do with the knowledge I had at the time. Story was good. And once we tweaked it, once I had a really professional editor, holy cow, now look at this, what a great story it became. So the core of what you're doing is going to be sound. You just have to be results oriented and say, I need to publish this book, and not just this book. I need to get that next one done too. And if you're looking at, I have to write 3 books, you can't be diddling around with the first book and let it go and languish while I just want to read it one more time. Stop it. Put a hard limit on it, like 3 times. I'm only reading it 3 times. My first book I read 20 times. It was still trash from the editing perspective. It needed a professional editor. It didn't need me reading it a 21st time. 100,000 word book I read 20 times trying to get it done. And no, don't do that.
I'm going to go ahead and take that, you saying stop it. I'm going to make it a meme and put it on my computer, and I can play that when I'm writing. Okay, that was great. Okay, what do you think is the cost of publishing one book? Everything, including the production costs, the editing, the marketing.
Oh, that's just wild. That varies wildly depending on what you're doing. So if you assume you can get a cover for about $500, you're writing a book that's, say, 100,000 words, just because the math is easy. Generally, my editing costs are 0.07 to 1 cent a word. So at 1 cent, that's $1,000, so $1,500. And that's about all I'm going to have to spend. Now, if I'm running promotions, okay, that's $1,500 on this book. It's the 3rd book in the series. Well, then I'll have promotion costs on that first book that are in addition to whatever I paid for the cover and the editing on it. I do my own blurbs. I do my own uploading and formatting. I bought Atticus, so I format everything myself. And
so, Craig, I'm going to stop you there for just a minute. Yeah. So Atticus is that the new Kindlepreneur, the Dave's new product there?
Yes, because I am a PC guy. I am absolutely not an Apple guy. I tried to buy an Apple. I bought an Apple and I tried to make it work for me and it did not. So I'm a PC guy, and Vellum, I couldn't use Vellum because I'm a PC guy. But when Atticus came out, I jumped on board that, and it has improved. He improves it every month, and it just gets better and better.
Okay. Okay, so that's great. And then I guess one final thing. I've heard people say, and approaching writing this way is taking the art, sucking the art out of writing. It becomes formulaic and all those other things. What do you say to people who say that without the F-bomb?
Don't get so wrapped around the business side that you lose the artistic side. And now, yes, I have books that I want to write, but I want to make each one unique, the same, but different. So the same in that I need to make it a military sci-fi, so I need to have spaceships that shoot laser beams and plasma weapons and stuff like that. Okay, great. But different in how do these reactions go? And what about this black hole, and how will it affect this laser fire? And let me do some cool math and some physics, and same but different. If you are thinking you're putting yourself on a production line, then you are. And you need to stop that train of thought and stop that descent into madness, because it's only you competing against yourself. So if you feel like I'm a production line, I'm doing this, then you're not competing very well against yourself. You need to challenge yourself to write a better story next time. And if you need more time, then don't make a deadline that you can't meet. So if it's, I think I can write a book in 2 months, I might put a deadline of 3 months. That's okay. But make sure you're getting words each day and not saying, well, I'm just going to sit and think about it. And then next day you do the same thing. And all of a sudden a week you haven't written. Are you an author or not? Authors write. So write each day and get words. When you're inspired, get some words, make sure you capture those ideas and make sure that it's a great story told well. So transfer what you see in your mind to the reader. But if you think you're on a production line, only you put you there. Nobody else put you there besides competition, thinking that, well, hey, so-and-so published 6 books this year, I've got to publish 7. Stop it. That's not the competition that you need. What's the right number for you, and what's the right quality of book? And I will tell every single author, you write the absolute best book you can write as quickly as you can write it.
Okay. All right, great. And then one thing I had a question. How many authors do you think are out there, independently published authors, who make over 6 figures, who make 6 figures and more? Is that a small group?
I know Amazon put out a number saying at least 1,000. It's more than that. I mean, we had a couple hundred at Vegas alone, and last year I think we had 50 making over half a million or more. The pot of money is almost infinite, in that there is room. 50 people already making half a million. That doesn't make, are you kidding? Session with just those folks, they're probably up to those kind of almost obscurity. There's lots of room. The readers are there. They will come on board with a great story that's given to them in a great way. Some of the folks realize great success through word of mouth. So all different kinds of ways to get those stories into people's hands. Still comes down to opportunity is endless, boundless. There's no limits except what you can put on yourself.
Okay, that's a great place to finish, I think. I do want to remind everybody, Dot just put it in the chat. And I do this, and I have been doing follow Craig on Facebook. Every morning I get your 5-minute author speech that kind of kicks your butt in gear every morning and gets you focused on important things. If you go to Craig's website, there's a free book, right, on writing in there. Yep. That you can get. You also see Craig's other books. Are there any other places people can get immersed in Craig and see what you do that I left out?
Oh, sure. Okay. CraigMartelle.com, CraigMartelle.com. If you go over to my blog, my 5-minute focus videos all pop up there within a day or two when I do them. And if you can copy down the YouTube channel link to this group, as well as go on to 20 books for those folks who aren't here. The 4 books that I have for free, Become a Successful Indie Author, Pricing Strategies, Release Strategies, all of those, please copy those links in for this good group of folks to then download at no cost to them. Okay,
I will do that. And I want to thank you. This has been great. I feel exposed. I feel like I'm going to go home and, like I said, make that meme there that says just do it, don't do it. And on behalf of everybody here, we want to thank you for joining us. We hope that you'll join us again. Hopefully we'll get a chance to meet at your conference. Now you have a conference coming up in November, right?
Yep, November 14th to 18th. Bally's, Las Vegas, and by November, I think they'll be called Horseshoe, but it's still the same place, right across from Caesars and Bellagio's. We have all of the event center, 100,000 square feet exclusively for our use. You can't beat it. We'll have about 2,500 authors there. All the industry service providers like Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Podium, Tantor, Dreamscape, Blackstone. Everybody who is anybody will be there.
Wow. All right. Well, we're also going to put that link and make that available to everyone. Again, I want to thank you for being here.
Sure.
We're so appreciative. We wish you a great tour in Ireland and Spain and in Europe, and hopefully we'll see you when you get back.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
guys. You guys have a
Thank you,
great day,
Fred.
and congratulations on getting together after all this time.
Yeah, thank you very much.